Know his name and fear it. He is Onslaught, the new Combiner Wars Voyager that everyone seems to be rather excited for because it completes another classic team, and hey, it's a pretty cool retool of an already really good toy that I've already reviewed, but we're reviewing this one again because, well, there's a lot different on it now, and I'm certainly not looking for redemption for totally screwing up the toy review last time with a bunch of bad transformations. Let's look at the toy. Once again, just like his G1 counterpart, Onslaught is something of a completely made-up military truck. Of course, the big feature being the massive cannon emplacement on top. So he is some kind of anti-aircraft vehicle. That's about as far as I can go because this is pretty much completely improvised. See, the big detail about this is the fact that the vehicle used to point this way. You can still see the light bar from Hotspot still on there. I'm not quite sure why they didn't mold that out, but hey, there you go. But yeah, this used to be the front of the fire truck mode, that used to be the rear, and they reversed the whole thing to create a vastly different vehicle, which is a very clever bit of engineering, and one a friend of mine told me about, and I thought, haha, that they wouldn't do that, now would they? Yeah, that's exactly what they did. I do like the look. It's in this very kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of a dark and kind of a subdued cyan blue. It's an interesting shade. It looks like something like the hull of a battleship or a submarine would be made of. And it doesn't look bad at all. It looks quite good. It makes for a very serious looking vehicle. As do details like having 8 wheels all rolling at the same time. You know, of course it's going to look heavy duty then. So, we look closer. You know, we can see where the seats and the drivers actually sit, as well as a lot of extra little molding, a lot of panels, a lot of little things are kept from Hotspot. Vents and extra doors, for instance, to make this look like a really big and heavy vehicle, and of course, it quite does. Now, just like the original Onslaught, you can see the fists just kind of hanging out there in the front. I assume it's supposed to look like a bumper of some kind here, but it doesn't quite have the same clever usage as the original toy did, with the hands forming the grills and whatnot. But for what this is, it's a very heavy vehicle, it's a very cool looking vehicle, and I quite enjoy it. Now, the interesting part comes in these silver components up top. Now, originally these were seen in brown, which was supposed to make it look accurate to the original Onslaught toy, and we were told it was going to get a running change to turn it silver. Well, the silver one came out first, so who knows if the running change is still happening. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of Combiner Wars left to go before Titan's return. But this is what we end up with, and I actually kind of prefer this. The vehicle mode is inaccurate, but that's really the only mode that's affected by it, and everything else seems to come out fine. Now, these 2 guns are removable, and you can see there's extra pegs here on the bottom, which is normally for where he holds it, but it does mean that you do have multiple positions that these guns can be mounted in. The instructions will actually tell you to plug them in like this with those tall handles down. I kind of prefer it this way because it creates a much tighter look. And likewise, you can still raise and lower the guns as if they're firing off at things in the air. So you still have that effect. And hey, unlike the original toy, they move independently now, so slight advantage. Never mind the obvious gunmetal head sticking out from the back. So that's really all we got for the vehicle mode. Time to take it to robot mode, and let's see if I get it right this time. Okay, so there are a few new little quirks here. So we're going to start by unclipping the legs from themselves. And this one clip in here at the top is really stubborn. So I'm going to go ahead and get that one out of the way first. And the legs unfold and unhinge just like before. Now this is where a lot of confusion on both versions of the toy happened, because it's real easy to call that the leg and just say, well, there's the knee, obviously. Not quite how that works. First, I'm going to rotate these around to get them in their proper position. And then, I'm going to fold up this double hinge so that the bottom hinge points in toward the knee, and the other one is 90 degrees to it. And then shove the whole thing in, you'll hear that click. That's how it's done. That's how you make a proper knee joint out of this whole toy. So there is a way. Come on, click in. There we go. So just like that, that's what you're supposed to do. All right, these will have to fold out to give the arms a little bit more room for now. All that rotates down. A lot of nice clicky click. Take down. Those fold down. Head. Ah, man, I forgot. This is a really tight little hinge to get that up, but that's not a bad thing. And just like that, he's a pretty quick and simple transformation, but in no time at all, you too can have your own Onslaught in robot mode. It's kind of amazing. I could actually get him fully transformed like this, considering my Onslaught came with Vortex's instructions for some reason. Yeah, I don't know either. But now we have him in this proper mode, you can see he really does do a good job looking like the classic Onslaught. This is where I don't really mind the silver molding, because he's got plenty of the brown paint to get across his G1 color scheme. And I think a little bit of silver here and there actually helps break the colors up a little bit. So there's nothing about this I really find all that much fault with. We go ahead and take a look. The head mold is the classic Onslaught. If you saw the Mega Octane review during Toycember, that's going to look like a very familiar head, because it's pretty much the exact same head. This just has a lot more detail. It's a lot sharper. And I do really love how they did the chest. I mean, look at that. I mean, it looks like a G1 sticker with all different kinds of random circuit patterns and colors. But it's all molded, it's all painted, it's a lot of detail to work in, and that's actually a really good thing, because little toys like this kind of need it. So hey, you got a very nicely decoed Onslaught here, very nicely proportioned. Just like Hotspot, this aesthetic is kind of right up my alley. Now, one thing I will point out is, because I did forget in transformation, and I wonder how many ran to the comments to correct me. Yeah, I forgot the heel spurs, because this guy is quite back heavy. Gee, I wonder why. He's carrying most of a combiner's chest and head on his back. All of it, as a matter of fact. But as you can see, the proportions work out really well. I like the big, heavy set shoulders. Gives him a nice, powerful warrior feel. All the proportions work out. Lower legs, not too heavy. They're just big bricks and blocks, but that works out. You can see, just like Hotspot, that section, the molding is still really nice with that deep inset mechanical detailing, and a little bit of a grill on top covering it up. It's a nice effect. There's a lot of little molding all the way around, revealing all kinds of inner workings. It does create a cool looking toy. There's a lot to see on him in the way of little detail. Now, for articulation, he does have quite a bit. The head does rotate. It's very stiff, but it does actually fully rotate. Universal shoulders, as well as an extra little hinge up here, thanks to the torso, and you can hear that nice little ratchet sound. We have a rotation just above the elbow. Technically, the elbows are double jointed, thanks to some transformation steps. No wrists, no waist. Bummer. Universal hips. Detented and ratcheted. Very, very stiff. Thigh swivel. Again, it's very stubborn. And hey, a very good knee bend. And because we transformed the knees correctly this time, the knees are quite tight and will hold up to play. One thing I will say is he does have those wide detents in his outward hips that get really frustrating. I never liked how far out they go. This is just about passable. Though it does suffer a little bit because the heel spurs are on the outside of the legs, which means he doesn't have as much on the inside to take up this weight as he needs. So in order to splay his legs outward, you kind of have to rotate them inward a bit just so they can get a little bit more contact on the ground. Not a huge deal, but it's a little bit frustrating when you're just trying to get him into a cool action pose. Now, like I said, these guns on the back are completely removable, so he can wield both as independent weapons. Because, of course, if you're going to be a Combaticon, you need firepower, and this is a good amount of firepower. He does look quite good wielding 2 rifles at the same time. Because, of course, you got to be that big to be able to wield, dual wield, like shotgun, assault rifles, whatever these end up being in your imagination. Also they do have an extra little pin on the bottom, so you actually can combine them together if you so choose, but that's getting a wee bit ridiculous, I find. Yeah, I'm not feeling that so much. No, not really. But that in itself is the Onslaught toy. It's quite a good Voyager class figure. It is nice and solid, the joints are really good, and the retooling, nice and heavy, makes him feel very different from his original Autobot mold counterpart. Which is good, because Combiner War toys can feel a bit repetitive. This one feels good. I will give him a lot of credit. They did a lot of work to make him feel different. And a lot of paint, making him look quite cool. So, yeah, he is a Combiner War Voyager, which means we also have to see how he looks combined. So, first off, we got to get that head back down into the torso. Rotate all of this around, and this is gonna... come on. Trying to get all of this... I'm doing it off screen because I'm trying to find where everything goes here. But as you can see, his backpack's kind of folding down, and we have the torso that we are going to eventually form. All this comes around, all kind of loops around, and once again we've completely rotated this toy around. Now the back is the front, and the front is the back again. Going to rotate the hips, put these pieces up. We'll fold these up too, just to clean up the legs a little bit. Now we have to get those knees unhinged so we can get them into this position. Come on, come on. It's a stubborn little connection point to be made here. Oh, come on, jeez. There we go. Now, interesting part. All of this that has to unclip and fold out properly, and this thusly fold up. Create these big shoulder pylons, which is kind of accurate to the original toy, but they are kind of exaggerated here, mostly for the sake of his arms are just that big. I'm going to go ahead and lock these in for now, just so I can give you a close-up of the torso mode all on its own. So as you can see, it's a pretty solid torso, and again, did a lot to change up how it works and looks from its original counterpart. Really did do a lot here to make up for, him just being a remold. There is a ton more going on. Now the hips, the thighs actually do look quite similar because the molding is still the same. I really do wish they had gotten rid of those light bars now, because this is where they still kind of stand out a little bit. But the torso is completely redone. Completely new chest piece, completely new waist piece, and the upper half of this toy is unrecognizable as Hotspot. They did an outstanding job here. Now, it wouldn't be a proper look at this guy if we didn't also include a look at him with his teammates. So let's go ahead and connect them on. Here goes on Brawl. I think Swindle comes up next. Yeah, he does. To the thigh. Okay, now here's the interesting part to me. You have to unclip the wings in order to attach the arms, and then recombine, which completely covers up that socket and actually makes them a far more secure connection. I've never had a problem with Combiner War connection points. These are actually surprisingly well engineered. They feel secure and they're easy to use. but that just gives it a much more solid look and completely hides that appearance. And with the whole thing assembled, that is your completed Bruticus. And yes, he is a big bad Bruticus in this form. I really do like the proportions. It came out really, really well when the whole thing is put together. Just for the sake of completing the look, I guess I should at least attach on his guns again. So let's see, which direction do we want them to go in? I think we'll go ahead and plug them in this way. As long as they're sticking up out of the back, they're going to look correct, so just put them in however you want. Again, kind of creates a tighter look. You can combine Shockwave onto the back too. You can combine that little Legends class Shockwave. Well, you can combine it a few ways. It does have a mounting port on the back, which is also very close to the port he had on his actual vehicle mode, which I kind of neglected to show because it's, you know, kind of a dual feature if you have them both. Technically, I should have covered it in the Shockwave review, but I didn't have Onslaught at the time. And of course, he does fit in the combiner mode's hand if you want to recreate the scene from the old show. I thought that was a clever use. Or, of course, you know, don't, because he's technically not a Combaticon, but hey, the option is there. So yeah, Bruticus looks absolutely epic. I really, really like this set. Of course, we have issues with Brawl, who I might get to at some point, but for now, I would say Onslaught is one of the better Voyagers out of this line. I already really liked Hotspot, and they've done enough to change this toy up to really sell me on it being a different character. Out of Combiner Wars, where I'm kind of getting a little bit tired of how much remolding and repainting is going on, they've actually done a really masterful job here of making him feel like a different toy. And it all comes together in a very cool looking Bruticus that puts all the others I've seen to shame. Now, I don't understand the gunmetal gray head, because why would you go to the effort of creating all these new parts for the sake of accuracy and then go and do that to the head and make it inaccurate? But besides that, looking good. Now, Takar's is probably going to be more cartoon accurate. You're probably going to see some brown and purple in the chest. You'll see a silver head, etc. And I don't know if we're going to get a brown version that turns all of this into murky brown. I really prefer this because there's already a lot of brown going on in the toy. But that's yet to be seen. For now, the version you're going to get now from BBTS or find at the local store, I think is a preferable version. But just my opinion. Of course, everything on this channel is just my opinion, but you should know that by now.